Well, everyone, let's go ahead and do another comparison this time around between two iPads that have just came out. So, as you guys know, the iPad 10.2 inch is the latest and greatest. It is that newest iPad that Apple just released like 2 days ago. And I just got my hands on it, and what I can tell you is that so far it seems like a pretty solid iPad. But as you guys know, the iPad 6th generation, aka the iPad 9.7 inch, the base model from 2018, was also a pretty good iPad when it first came out. And these iPads, I think, are some of their most popular ones because, they're targeted more so for students. These aren't like the most power heavy and, most impressive iPads they make, but for the price that they are very impressive machines in my opinion. Now, first of all, looking on the front of these, but even before that, looking at the pricing structure of these, the iPad 6th generation, I don't know if you can pick them up anymore. I think on Amazon or eBay, if you're lucky, you can probably find them for like less than $200. But on the newest iPad 8th generation, you can see that these things cost $329 brand new. And for a brand new iPad, that is actually really impressive. And it's pretty hard to find ones that are better than that, in my opinion, for that price tag. Now, looking on the front, okay, the iPad 6th generation, which came out in 2018, this thing has a 9.7 inch IPS panel, and it has a little bit of bezel around the display, that's for sure, and it doesn't really look that bad. I mean, both of these have home buttons on the front, they both have Touch ID as well, but as you can see, the iPad 9.7 inch looks like a standard iPad, what you expect. It doesn't really have any crazy bells and whistles. It's a pretty standard display. It's a 1536 by 2048, so not an ugly panel, but definitely, it looks a little bit more chunkier in a way than the 10.2 inch iPad. So I definitely do think that panel looks great. I think the overall device looks great, but for sure, if you go up to an iPad 10.2 inch, which just came out, but the design is recycled from last year, you're going to be seeing slimmer bezels on the site just a little bit, but for the most part, they're going to look kind of identical, where that 10.2 inch iPad has a 10.2 inch display, who'd have guessed it, and that resolution is 1620 by 2160, so a little bit higher resolution. For sure, that is a really good looking panel as well for a budget iPad. It's nothing compared to like the iPad Pros or anything. I mean, those things have a very little bezel, and that panel has 120 Hz as well. This one, the iPad 8th generation and 6th generation, do not have it, but it's expected on a budget iPad. For a budget iPad, you're expecting it not to be, the most premium high-end phone or iPad you can get at that time. It's going to be very average for the most part, but it'll get the job done. Now, if you're a student and you're looking at both of these, if you currently own the iPad 6th generation, the display is not one of those things where you're going to go and upgrade and see, some crazy differences. But internally, that's where you're going to see more differences in my opinion. Now, looking on the bottom, both these have lightning ports, which is really cool. And on the back, pretty much the same kind of camera setup as well. Obviously, single camera setups. And feeling both in the hand, I mean, they're both going to feel almost identically the same. The one isn't really going to feel more premium. If you want the most premium feeling iPad, obviously you can go for the iPad Pros. This one is very good as well. I mean, this is not like a cheap feeling device. Both of these aren't. In fact, I remember not too long ago, I mean, with like the iPad 2s and stuff, I mean, those were like, even the first iPad, those have always felt premium. All the iPads Apple has ever released have actually felt very premium, and these ones are no doubt that same way. So in terms of the outside, obviously no IP certification or anything to compare these two, but that really pretty much covers it up for the most part in terms of the outside. Now, hitting on the software, this is probably the more interesting aspect between these two, and when it comes down to it, for sure the 2018 iPad is probably not going to last as long as that 2020 iPad that just came out in terms of software. Now, both of these are supported with iPadOS 14, which is great. They're both going to be getting updates for probably at least another year guaranteed. But with that iPad 2018 model, you have that Apple A10 Fusion chip inside of it. Now, imagine this, that is pretty much the same chipset as the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus. So you can imagine that. Now compare that to the A12 Bionic chip that's inside the iPad 8th generation. That is pretty much the same chipset as the iPhone XS, XS Max, and XR. So you're kind of comparing those two phones in a way too, and I'm pretty sure the iPhone 7s are probably going to get one more version of software and that's it. Maybe two if we're lucky, but I would probably say one. So that's a pretty big difference. The iPhone XS, XR, and XS Max, those things are going to be lasting for quite a bit of time. You can get this phone now and still be supported for a while, and the same logic goes for these iPads. You can get both these iPads now However, the iPad 8th generation will definitely do you much better. Now, a major thing to keep in mind on top of that is that the software experience is going to be exactly the same on both of these. And that's a very, very important thing to keep in mind. You're not going to go from the iPad 6th generation to the iPad 8th generation and like immediately see like a bunch of improvements and crazy things like that. It's just not going to happen. You're going to see maybe a couple improvements here and there, but for the most, maybe because of a bigger display, not really, but like you're probably going to get the same exact experience on both, if I'm being completely honest, which, like I said, isn't a bad thing. I think it's a good thing too. You're getting a lot of similarities across the board, and for your iPad 6th gen users, you'll probably end up justifying yourself keeping it a little bit longer. But definitely at the end of the day, longevity wise in terms of software, the iPad 8th generation will definitely do you much better in the long run. Now moving on to the performance side of things, the iPad 6th generation has that Apple A10 Fusion chip, quad-core CPU, and 2 gigs of RAM on each model, with the iPad 8th generation has that Apple A12 Bionic chip, a hexa-core CPU, and 3 gigs of RAM on all those models. Now, on top of just the performance increase, you're getting an extra gig of RAM, which is very, very important to hit on. That is an extremely cool thing, and obviously it's not like the best thing ever, but at the end of the day, that is an improvement that you're getting. And like I said, when it comes down to the performance side of things, it's really, really important to have that type of performance increase when you have an iPad like this. It's not really, a game changer, but definitely when it comes down to it, you're better off having better performance than not. Now with that Apple A12 Bionic inside of that iPad 8th generation, you're getting that iPhone XS type of experience. And I would consider it more like iPhone XR because the XR has the same amount of RAM as this. So that's a pretty big thing to keep in mind too. But I'm not going to sit here and say, the iPad 6th generation is a horrible tablet either. You have some similarities between these two. I mean, the 6th gen iPad still supports the Apple Pencil, and so does the 6th gen. So both of these support the same Apple Pencil type, which is really cool. And I say that because I'm pretty sure about 99% of people who are going to buy both of these iPads are probably either students or people who don't really need to use their iPad like a crazy amount. Maybe it's kind of like a side device. Or maybe it's even their full device, but maybe they don't need to use the, most amount of power. And I say that because if they need to, then definitely going up to an iPad Air or an iPad Pro will definitely do you much better. But I think these things would make really, really good replacements or side devices for students, who need to go and, type up papers and documents and all that stuff. And you're going to be getting that really good experience on the iPad 8th generation, where the 6th generation is still going to be good for now, but it could probably end up, not doing its job quite well sooner than later, who knows. But in terms of the performance, that pretty much covers it. Now hitting on the cameras, they both pretty much have the exact same sensors, 8 megapixel sensors on the back, 1.2 megapixel sensors on the front, and they have not increased these cameras in such a long time. So if you're okay with it, then go for it. I doubt you're filming videos on these things, but it's good for FaceTime and Zoom calls and different things like that, which is a really big plus for both these iPads. So in terms of the cameras, that really pretty much covers it up. And ending it off with the battery life. Now we don't have a full-size milliamp hour yet for the iPad 8th generation, but I'm gonna assume it's probably the same as the 7th gen, which is around that 88 milliamp hour, or maybe it's 8300 milliamp hours. The iPad 6th generation had an 8827 milliamp hour battery though, which is really good. I had a really good battery life on the 6th gen that I was using, and I've heard a lot of people say the 6th gen iPad has a really good battery life as well. And I'm pretty sure the 8th gen is probably going to be more or less the same, if I'm being honest. That iPad has a lot going for it. There's really no problems that I've seen so far. So with that 8th gen iPad, I would assume it has really good battery life too. Maybe the 6th gen will have better battery life because it has technically a lower resolution display, it's less powerful, and the screen is smaller, but I would say both these battery lives are probably going to be around the same at the end of the day. Now, to answer the question, man, to be completely honest, should you go and buy the iPad 6th generation, or should you go and, spend a little bit more money and buy the iPad 8th generation? In my opinion, I would probably be better off telling you to, maybe go buy the iPad 8th generation right now. If you currently own an iPad 6th generation though, I mean, there's no harm in keeping it, and I can't stress this enough. If you own that iPad and it's going and it's doing the job and it's perfectly fine and it doesn't hiccup that much, then by all means keep it. There's no point in just upgrading your devices for no reason. And if you're having a good experience with it, then totally keep it. I allude the same thing to my 2015 MacBook Retina Pro that I literally use for everything. And I can go switch to my 16-inch or something, but I just like that MacBook. It gets the job done for me. And I can say the same thing probably is the same thing here for a lot of you. If you have that 6th gen iPad and it's getting the job done, then definitely keep it. But if you feel like it's sluggish a little bit, or if you feel like you were about to upgrade anyway and you were going to get the 7th gen, then, getting the 8th gen will probably be the better way to go. It's better, it's faster than a lot of other tablets. It's very, very good in price, in my opinion. For that $329 price mark, that is really good. And it can do everything that the iPad 6th gen can do at a price tag that's not really too much crazier. It's not like you're spending $1,000 on it. So I think the iPad 8th generation definitely is a really good upgrade from the 6th gen. But if you currently own the 6th gen, maybe even if you want to go up to the 7th gen, that would also be a pretty okay upgrade. I mean, that was more like a refresh in design because it shares the same chipset with 1 extra gig of RAM. So there may be some differences there, but definitely I would tell you, if you have that $329 to spend, getting the iPad 8th generation will definitely do you better in the long run. So that really pretty much covers it up there. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.